Welcome back to Coin Flip. I'm Derek Wu. Today we're talking about credit cards, and more specifically about a number that I think most people either don't know or are actively avoiding. That number is $1.28 trillion. That's the total credit card debt Americans are carrying right now, according to LendingTree's analysis of Federal Reserve data. Let that sit for a second. Here's why this matters. Bankrate's 2026 credit card debt report found that nearly half of Americans are still carrying a balance month to month, and according to LendingTree, the average APR in Q1 2026 was 21%. So millions of people are sitting on balances, paying one of the highest interest rates of any financial product out there, and often unsure what to do about it. Today's episode is built around one decision that a lot of people wrestle with. Do you pay off the card or do you put money into investments? Simple question. The math behind it is actually pretty clear, and we're going to walk through it. Here's what's coming. First, we ground the whole conversation in what's actually driving these balances. Spoiler, a lot of it isn't lattes. According to data from dropthedebt.org, citing Federal Reserve figures, about 55% of credit card balances are covering essentials like groceries, rent, and healthcare. So before we get to solutions, we get the context right. Then we get into the core math. A 21% APR card is effectively a guaranteed 21% return if you pay it off. No index fund comes close to that. But there are two exceptions worth knowing before you throw everything at the debt. Thoughtfully. After that, we handle the gray zone. What if your APR is somewhere in the middle? What about balance transfer cards? And the avalanche versus snowball payoff methods? Which one actually works? We break it down. And we close with rewards cards, because here's the thing. Cashback and travel points are genuinely free money, but only under one condition. The moment you carry a balance, that 21% APR erases any 1 to 2% cashback gain in a matter of weeks. The goal today is simple. By the end of this episode, you know your number, you know what to do with it, and you can make the call tonight. No research spiral, no waiting for the perfect plan. Okay, let's get into it. Starting with the $1.28 trillion and what's actually behind it. Here's a number that stops most people cold. $1.28 trillion. That's the total credit card balance Americans were carrying at the end of 2025, according to LendingTree citing Federal Reserve Bank of New York data, the highest level since the New York Fed started tracking this in 1999. And it's up $507 billion from the pandemic low of $770 billion back in early 2021. Now, I know what you're probably bracing for. The lecture, the shame spiral, the Americans are terrible with money take. We're skipping all of that, because here's what the data actually shows. According to a 2026 Achieve survey cited by multiple sources, about 55% of credit card balances are covering essentials, groceries, rent, utilities, not vacations, not luxury purchases, eggs, rent, the light bill. When more than half the debt in this country is just people trying to stay housed and fed, that's a budgeting math problem, not a character flaw. Bankrate's 2026 credit card debt report puts it plainly, too. Nearly half of cardholders carry a balance, and the causes are usually practical. I think about my dad sometimes when I look at these numbers. He kept his money in a savings account his whole life, never invested a single dollar, and he retired fine. Not wealthy, but fine. The reason I bring that up, context matters more than the headline number. $1.28 trillion sounds catastrophic, but the relevant question is never the aggregate. The relevant question is always your situation. So what does your situation actually hinge on? One number, your APR. That's it. According to LendingTree, the average APR on cards accruing interest hit 21.52% in Q1 2026. That rate is the engine of the whole problem. It's why balances that feel manageable today can compound into something that doesn't. So this episode is a math problem with a real answer, and that answer changes completely depending on what your rate actually is, which raises a question worth sitting with. What is your APR up against really when you put it next to everything else you could do with that money? So here's where the math actually lives. You have a credit card charging you 21% a year. The stock market, over the long run, returns somewhere around 7 to 10% annually. Those two numbers do not compete. Paying off a 21% card balance is the functional equivalent of locking in a guaranteed 21% return. No index fund can reliably promise that. No investment strategy can promise that. It's not even close. Fidelity puts the break-even threshold at roughly 6%. Below 6% APR, the expected investment return probably wins. Above it, paying down debt wins. At 21%, the answer is obvious before you even finish running the numbers. So here's why this matters for how you actually behave. I once spent 4 months researching which index fund to buy. 4 months. The difference between my top two choices, about $12 a year in fees. Meanwhile, I missed 4 months of compounding. That's when I understood something important. When the stakes are low, sure, take your time. When your card is costing you 21% a year, every month you spend researching is a month that rate is working against you. Speed beats precision. Now, 2 things before you go all in on paying down the card. First, if your employer offers a 401k match, capture every dollar of it before sending extra money anywhere else. That match is an immediate 50 to 100% return on your contribution. Nothing beats free money. Nothing. Second, keep a small cash buffer. Fidelity recommends at least $1,000 sitting somewhere accessible, because if you drain everything to pay down the card and then the card breaks down, you're right back on that card. The buffer is what keeps the math from going in reverse. So the clean rule looks like this. Get the employer match first, build a small cash buffer, then attack the high-rate debt hard. That sequence matters. The important thing to understand is that this is a math question with a clear answer at 21%. The messier question, which we'll get into next, is what you do when your rate is somewhere in the middle or when you're carrying multiple cards at different rates. That's where it gets interesting. So that clean rule from before, great if your APR is above 20%. But what if it's not? What if you're sitting at 14% or 12%? That's where the math gets genuinely closer. Here's the thing. The question shifts. It stops being pay off debt or invest and becomes, can I change the cost of this debt first? Because right now, balance transfer cards are offering 0% intro APR for up to 21 months. Cards like the Wells Fargo Reflect or the Citi Diamond Preferred. If you qualify, that's nearly 2 years to pay down principal with 0 interest running against you. Suddenly, the math looks very different. To put this in perspective, if you move a $6,000 balance to a 0% card for 21 months, you need about $286 a month to clear it completely before interest kicks back in. No investing calculus required. You just eliminated the problem. Now, once you've decided to pay down, and some of you will carry more than one card, there are 2 ways people do it. The avalanche method. Pay the highest rate balance first. Minimum payments on everything else. Mathematically, that's the most efficient path. You pay less interest overall. The snowball method flips that. Pay the smallest balance first, regardless of rate. You clear accounts faster, which builds momentum. It costs a little more mathematically, but research on behavioral finance suggests people actually stick with it longer. Both beat the minimum payment default by a lot. The minimum payment is how a $2,000 balance turns into a decade-long problem. So, here's the one thing I want you to walk away with from this segment. Pull up your card statement right now or tonight. Find the APR, just that number. Then ask, is this above 20%, below 12%, somewhere in the middle? That number tells you which lane you're in. High APR, the math is clear. Gray zone, ask whether a balance transfer changes the equation. Low APR, investing starts to compete. Most people treat paying off debt and investing as 2 completely different categories, almost moral categories. They're not. They're 2 sides of the same equation. Run the comparison, make the call, and move forward. And once you've resolved the balance question, the next thing to understand is how your card can actually work for you, not against you. So with the payoff path mapped out, one question naturally surfaces. What about rewards cards? Should you have one? Here's the short answer. A rewards card is only free money under one specific condition. You pay the full balance every month without exception. The math is brutal when you break it down. Average credit card APR is sitting around 21% right now. The average cash back rate, according to Wallet Hub, is about 1.18%. So if you carry a balance to earn that 1.18%, you are paying roughly 21 cents per dollar to collect a little over 1 cent. That is not a rewards program. That is a marketing fiction. Bankrate puts it well. Interest compounds on top of interest, and it gains momentum fast. The rewards points will never outrun that slope. But here's what changes once you're out of revolving debt. A rewards card used for normal, planned spending, paid in full every month, costs you nothing extra. Your groceries, your gas, your streaming subscriptions. You were going to buy all of that anyway. Now you get 1 to 2% back on top. That is genuinely free money. Think of it like this. The card is not a credit line. It's a debit card with a 30-day grace period and a small rebate attached. The moment you stop thinking of it as borrowing power, the rewards stop being a trap. Does that mean you should go research the best rewards card right now? No. If you're still carrying a balance, that's the only number that matters today. The rewards optimization conversation happens after the debt is gone. So here's where we land. Two types of listeners walked into this episode. If you're carrying high-interest debt, the return on paying it off beats anything the market offers. If you're debt-free and paying in full every month, a rewards card is a small, real bonus. Pick whichever lane applies to you, take the one next action, and move on. The math is simple. The only hard part is starting. And that's the episode. Credit card debt, the payoff versus invest decision, rewards cards, the whole picture. So what's the one thing I want you to walk away with today? Know your APR. That single number tells you everything you need to know about what to do next. According to LendingTree, Americans are carrying $1.28 trillion in credit card balances right now, as of the end of 2025, and the average APR on accounts actively accruing interest sits around 21%. Those two numbers together are why this decision actually matters. And here's what made this episode click for me. When we reframed paying off a 21% card as locking in a guaranteed 21% return, that's not a metaphor, that's the math. No index fund gives you that with certainty. So if your APR is high, the choice basically makes itself. The exception, and this is worth repeating, is your 401k match. Grab that first. Free money is still free money. Then turn your attention to the card. I also think about my dad a lot when I cover topics like this. He kept everything in a savings account his whole life, zero investing, and he retired fine, not rich, but fine. The point is that not that his approach was optimal. The point is that doing something consistently beats waiting for perfect, which is the trap I fell into at 26, reading every personal finance book I could find, then doing nothing for 2 years because I was hunting for the ideal answer. The optimal approach was literally any approach. So, if you're sitting on a 21% card right now, tonight's the night. Pull up the number, run the comparison, then make the call and move on with your life. Warmly, if this episode helped you, subscribe so you catch the next one. And if you've got a money decision you're stuck on, drop it in the reviews. We might just flip a coin on it next week. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'm Derek Wu, and this is Coin Flip. See you next week.